The Führer is furious in his bunker. He is raging, raging, raging. Hello, fellow armchair generals. How'd you like that little strangely accented start? This, of course, is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3's 10.41, and we are in the midst of Barbarossa. Well, there's two things the Führer is furious with. He is furious with the failure to take Gibraltar. Now, he got pulled away from some event, most likely. Do we put him? Fortress Buster? Yeah, let's do that. He would have been a good option there. This is one of the things the Führer is furious with. Now, I was just losing way too many ships, lost a lot of landing craft. Not that that's terribly expensive or terribly bad. But notice we don't have any destroyers left. Without destroyers, we become vulnerable to other things. Losses are going to be just with the main ships. So things are not going well. I do not think that this is an effective, especially looking at those battleships there. This is an effective means of invading Gibraltar. That's a lot of battleships. Now, was that the escort that we saw earlier that brought reinforcements to here? Maybe we sunk all of their transports with aircraft or something? I do not know. But I do not think we should really try to do a naval invasion here. Now that leaves us with a few choices here. But we'll get to the other thing that the Führer is furious with. The furious Führer is this. Well, partially this. The supply officer. Now this is quite honestly, to the best of my understanding, we have lots of fuel. It is, let's do supply mode. It is sort of lost in the system. It gets, we need lots of fuel here. Well, oh, wait a minute, we don't. So let's send it back. Oh, but we need fuel in the next province. Okay, and then let's send some out for there. And so there's a lot that's being taxed back and forth and lost in the system. Okay, it looks like they're pushing there. That's pushing there. So let's move into the SD with their militia regiment there. So that is part of the situation. Not a whole lot directly we can do about it. But another thing the Führer is furious with is the lack of reinforcements getting with the unit to the units. Now, as we can see here, we get some ships coming, lots of really good, you can see lots of artillery in those units. Infantry divisions ready to go into the Soviet Union coming. But we're not getting enough reinforcements. In a way, this is almost historical in the sense that I would say for three reasons. Okay, well, some people have complained about my historical talking and not enough gameplay. I understand there needs to be a balance, people, but I think, and I can't please everybody, but I think what makes my channel interesting is I'm playing games and analyzing and talking about history while doing that. And said maybe I should rebrand my channel. Well, hello, Sebastian. Good morning. And it does even say in the little blurb before you subscribe about history with gaming and gaming with history type thing. So, yes, we're going to look at this. Three reasons why the Führer, Adolf Hitler, and some of the higher up prioritized new divisions over reinforcing old divisions. Not that they didn't reinforce older divisions, they did. But there was, I think, a threefold reason why they were prioritizing new over old. One, we'll call it defeatism. I think that might be a good term that they were worried about. They were worried about soldiers, long experienced soldiers, partially what we would call, PTSD or, just long-term trauma fighting, but they were worried about, hey, this is an unwinnable war. And so they were worried about, exhausted units. And if you just send fresh new boys into the exhausted units, these units are already in the defeatist type mode. I think that's one of the reasons. The second reason is ideology. Now, this may be sort of tied into the first more than I'm separating it out, but it's ideology. Most of the men that were in the army in 1939, 1940, they were a bit older. Those that were called up, the drafts that were called up, where those that were entering the army in 42, 43, 44, they were younger. And the younger ones the older ones, they may have never been in the Hitler Youth, or they'd only barely been in the Hitler Youth, where the younger ones had been in the Hitler Youth, because the Hitler Youth exists before 1933, but it's just a small fraction of children in Germany being in it. By, roughly 1936, all other, including like the Boy Scouts, all other youth programs are outlawed, and basically all children, particularly male children, but all children are in the Hitler Youth. There is a women's, girls, whatever, the BDM element to it too, but all of the children are in the Hitler Youth of the right types of people. Obviously, if you're Jewish or something, you're not, but so they've been indoctrinated. So there's this indoctrination. Now, part of that is, it's obviously ideological, but part of that is, yes, can come down to Germany is going to win because we're the superior people, blah, 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 blah. But also part of it is just the sort of ideology of National Socialism, Hitler, the state is right. They're gonna win. So the newer divisions were more ideologically sound, shall we say, according to the Nazis' idea. Yes, the Bund Deutsches Machen. I don't know. I'm sure I'm butchering it. Niagara, how you doing, my friend? So, the younger, because older or new divisions will get a sprinkling, and they have to, of older men that are NCOs, but they're going to be, particularly like in 1943, they're going to be 18-year-olds. So they've spent roughly the last 10 years going through the National Socialist ideological indoctrination system. So where a lot of the people that were being drafted into the army earlier, say in 1939, 1940, some of them are 30-year-olds. And so the last 10 years, they may have gone through, their army training, once, 35 or 36, one of those years. I think it's 35. The draft is reinstituted in Germany. So they've been through, army, training at some point, become, a reserve soldier, whatever, and gone back to civilian life, and they're being called up, but they have not spent a decade going through the ideology indoctrination in there. So you get a lot of these types of people. Is the difference between early call-up units and later units. 3, I think, and so Hitler trusts and believes in the ideological troops more. 3 is the map. Hitler is a map general. Yeah, once in a while there's some photos, he flies out to some, he's mostly sitting here for the Eastern Front in Rastenburg Forest at the Wolfschanze, or however you pronounce it. Wolfschanze here, that's the guard unit for it. And he's mostly commanding from here. But yeah, he periodically does fly out to some of these forward positions and talks to the field marshal and the top 3 or 4 generals, and some of the staff officers brief him or something. And he may, hand out a few iron crosses or something and go home. But that isn't really commanding and seeing what's going on. It's just showing concern. So he's a map general. So he sees this. He doesn't, and just he sees maybe this, not so much, and we'll get to playing here in a moment, not so much this, in essence, in that it's not a division right now. I mean, it's called a division, has a division marker on the map, but it's a shadow of itself. So he sees units on the map, and so he, including him, but including everybody else, and he does realize that they take casualties and whatnot. I mean, I don't want to overstate some of this, but they realize that. But what he is not terribly displeased by, and the overall command element, I'm trying to find an example here, something sort of like this. Forget that the headquarters unfortunately gets whacked because it's the top thing here, and it shouldn't be, but we want a nice cool counter. But okay, look at the main sort of units here, artillery, whatnot, they're fairly well in good shape. So that strength-wise, not organization, it's in somewhat shatters, but strength-wise, most of these combat units, okay. So a division at 2/3 strength isn't concerning the Nazis that much, 2/3 of its strength. So they would rather see that division at 2/3 strength and create a new division to have, say, instead of reinforcing 2 divisions to their full strength and having 2 divisions on the map, they would rather see 3 divisions on the map. Now, if you're keeping it at 2/3 plus, that plus a little bit more strength kind of thing, 3/4, that ain't so bad an idea, quite honestly, because if you're able to equip the units, and particularly if support units like artillery, particularly artillery, but all of that is functioning well, that's sort of a firepower multiplier, in the sense that if you have, say, 5,000 troops supported by 10 artillery pieces, that's going to be a lot more, and if they're properly, supplied, those 10 artillery pieces supporting 5,000 troops is much more effective than 10 artillery pieces supporting 10,000 troops, because you're concentrating your firepower. Now, you can make, and Italy saw when it went from triangle divisions, 3 brigades to the division, down to 2 brigades to the division, found out the divisions are just too weak for being able to sustain losses, because they're going to sustain losses. And it's sort of like, well, yeah, effectively going from 3 brigades to 2 brigades, it's still functional, but going from, and be a division, functionally do a division's role, but going from 2 brigades down to sort of 1 brigade too quickly collapses the division. So you can get too small for it to be a proper division. So, if it's, if you're only going to keep, 24 or something artillery pieces in a division, which I think that's roughly what they were for the proper artillery in a German division, it would be better at some point to have more divisions with the artillery. Now, if you can't supply the artillery, then it's better just to have another support weapon. It's better to keep the divisions you have up to strength. So a little bit of new units coming in and not fully topping up your current units is a good idea. But if you let them get too weak, they're down at half strength or whatever, and they just get a trickle of replacements and it's just not working out, that's a recipe for disaster. And that's sort of what happens. Well, obviously, so there is a point. They do have some point. They're not entirely wrong, but this is bad. This is just, I have not kept up with needing to supply reinforcements here. Now, what we might want to do, let's see about just some manpower here that I'm worried about most. Not really that at the moment worried about, and I'm willing to cheat in money because I don't like the way they do things here. I've changed that with new TRE. Daily descent, not so worried about that, but that, and we don't quite need the extra 25% ICs just yet. Okay, short visit, but still like here. Thank you very much, Aurora. Yep, we've got lots of little pockets geographically, but quite a bit of units trapped in them. Hello, John Beth, how you doing? So got a lot of decent pockets. If you look at some of these are just now being reduced down that were much bigger. So in many ways we're doing quite well. Yeah. So we're going to continue this, but I just wanted to cover where I am failing in getting proper support. Just looking if I want to readjust. No, I don't really think I do. Right. Okay. Well, what we're also going to do here is I'm going to drop this here, and we're going to Hans Kammler. According to one documentary I saw, doesn't mean that it's 100% correct, but according to one documentary I saw, we know for sure Hans Kammler died. We know absolutely for sure. He was the SS whatever, Obergruppenführer, or whatever his rank was. I used to sort of know the rank system for the SS, but I've forgotten it. But they got really sort of in charge of a lot of the secret projects and the secret production towards the end of the war, and actually took over Peenemünde from both the army and the Luftwaffe, because there was both an army base. The army, I think it was the army that did the V1 and the Luftwaffe did the V2, or something, correct me if it was the opposite. There were two different programs. No, I think it was the army, the V2, and the V1 was the Luftwaffe. I don't know. Dornbringer. Yeah, Dornbringer, I think with a V1 was army. And I think, but there were two different programs, one run by the Luftwaffe, one run by the Heeres. I should learn how to speak and maybe get something to drink here. I'm doing pretty good, just sort of waking up still, but doing pretty good here. He takes over this, and so Hans Kammler is becoming sort of the evil, dark production guy, starvation labor type kinds of things, not just with Jews, but Soviet prisoners and others, the ones that are building the hollowing out is overstating it, but building all the tunnels in one mountain that's building, that they're building Me-262s in, that they have an elevator that brings them to the top, and they have a airstrip built on the top of the mountain that they fly them away in. He's the guy that's doing all that stuff. But we know he died at the end of the war because we have 3 reports, independent, that didn't talk to each other, reports of his death. So we know there's Herr in my Luftwaffe. Well, pretty good. Martek, pretty good. Um, 3 independent, did not talk to each other, did not know each other, reports of his death. Well, the only problem is there are 3 different locations at different times, like one flying up to Norway, one down in Spain. Oh, he died 3 different times. I have a feeling that he survived the war. Not just a feeling, no real knowledge, no real good clues. But he was certainly trying to. And so I don't know what to think on that, other than I just basically don't trust what is happening here with him. Okay, so these guys are pushing there. These guys have taken there. Let me look. Okay, you're motorized, so you're going to go fairly quick. You swing down this way just to sort of secure the rear there. You keep coming up this way. You come towards Minsk. I think they're pushing hopefully hard enough. Whoa, thanks for hosting now, Arno. Thank you, Niagara. Do appreciate the support. Yes, it does actually help if you guys hit that like button. Just keep moving, keep attacking. Forward. Now, if you don't like the idea, because of my tabletop board game playing, I like to micromanage all this stuff. But if you don't like to micromanage a lot of this, drawing the front lines and trying to have the AI handle it, I think is worse. Oh, okay, you're about shattered. Let's keep you from, but let's add you to the attack. You should really much more consider the Hearts of Iron 4 if you just want to draw the battle maps and have the game play out. You're probably going to be able to hold there. Just, sort of play styles. You cross. You keep coming up that way. I like this. This game is meant, in my opinion, to be played slowly, which is fine, which is good. Well, Romanians, you just keep marching up here until you find some sort of resistance. So how's your week been, Arno? I think we'll move you up to here. I know you're not much of a unit, but you do have a little bit of a HQ to help hold the rear areas. Okay. How far, I was asked, how far are we going to be able to get? Are we going to be able to come up to here? I don't know that we can get Stalingrad from this, but we can certainly, shall we say, secure a southern front, because what we have here, don't forget, we have all of these units, some Romanian mountain units and infantry divisions, which may not be very good, a few more German divisions here, but we also have these guys, which are going here just to be able to invade here. Prince Eugen division and a couple other divisions that'll be here in the south, pushing up, along with a lot of stuff coming through here that is being freed up. Going to buy my pet birds on Monday. Well, cool. Cool. What kind of birds? Okay, what I think, they have a massive amount of submarines. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put, I don't know that sending out the, well, I've got a lot of antis. Well, okay, let's risk this. But we're not going to put in all these transports. Those are just targets, and we don't need to add targets to the situation. They might absorb some damage, but we don't need to do that. So let's put you out here on patrol. And let's put, these guys have wicked good, and let's see, what is it here? Sub-detection, is it 3.8, and where's sub-attack? C-attack? Well, sub-attack, yeah, 80. So if these guys find you, they're going to really do a... Zebra finches. Okay, finches are sort of cool. They're bringing up military police to deal with the outbreak here. Yeah. That's the drink. He's got to recover from that. Now, also talk about what it has been suggested to bring in Spain into the war, and but before doing that is to bring in my fortress busting divisions, and they're mostly sort of over here, I think. They're somewhere around here. You sort of got to click and find them. They've got some heavy artillery and whatnot attached to them. I think speed and velocity for going after the Soviet cities is more important. So we're going to let Spain sit for a little while. Okay. Yeah, we lost that province there. One there, finally good. Yeah, these guys are cut off, but that won't be for very long. Heavy armor might be a little bit of a threat, but they got some heavy AA, which should have hard attack. Well, it's that isn't so good as I thought. Piercing attack 49 though, so they may swing up and help with that. Okay, let's keep pushing there. Yep, you're pushing there. Rommel's trying to get back to his command. You want to be there when I do it. Take Moscow. Well, we just lost the subs up here. Not so good. Well, yeah, not so good. Oh, how are we doing up here? Okay, we are pushing forward. Good. Get across that river so you can keep pushing. They're across there. They're all moving. Let's get you moving through to here, I think. Okay, Leapstandarte is leading the way for once. That's reasonably historically correct. Yeah, I think we'll deny the Soviets that airbase and see about pushing in that direction. Don't know why these guys have no order whatsoever. Yes, they're being bombed, so we want to keep them moving. They're trying to get across that river, so we'll support them from this side of the river. Uh-oh, Jaeger division shattered. Okay, well, what we should do is get these guys coming back in the right direction. I think he's been one of the ones that have been fighting some of these units in the swamps since the beginning. Now, I think it's a flaw, not by design, but just sort of by limitations. Now, I think this unit here may have been the one that was here, and it may have been shattered on the defense. Shattering on the defense, I can agree with. Whether it should happen a lot or not is another question, but I can agree with it. Shattering on the attack for, shall we say, non-Japanese units, I actually think is not right or correct or whatever. Because I think they would just lose organization and stop pushing. Again, it's always a pain in the ass due to port. Yes, absolutely. If I was, if I had more, because it's huge. Look at all these submarine units. I think that's what all these are. And they seem, well, they're heading, I don't know, into here. What should I say about this? I don't think the Soviets had that many submarines. That doesn't mean, no, but that doesn't mean in a game like this they shouldn't have them, in the sense that you can change priorities. You know, instead of building aircraft, you can build submarines, or instead of building tank divisions, you can build submarines. Right. So that does make a certain amount of sense. That, you know, you can change your priorities. And I question is, and I really think they have gone in, and I've looked at some of the code now that I understand some of the code, and they've gone in and they've improved the hell out of like build codes, you know, the EULAs, telling what the AI to build, and they've done a lot of improvement. But I think they may have over emphasized, but they're still learning, you know. And you got to put it out here and see how it goes. What's going on? But if I had a bit more shipping available and not going to be immediately sunk by a huge fleet of submarines, I would see about doing a naval invasion up to Archangel from over here. But of course, our main fleet is down here. Well, it's not that, it's that. But just simply coming and pushing here opens up a front very nicely, quite honestly. Makes the Soviets have to split their forces. Okay, yeah, this is a, I mean, it does have a militia unit. They're just, their idea is just to hold while hopefully these guys are all being pushed by the Hungarians for this moment. Okay. Let's see here. They're moving that way. You're battling that. So I think, yeah. Let's move one there. Well, let's move 2 there. Let's keep concentration of forces. I'm splitting my forces up maybe a bit too much. Yeah, you join the attack. You move up to defend there. Is that everybody? Yeah. And we're attacking into swamp. You're attacking into swamp. You move up into here. You guys, we're not going to let you linger in that swamp or defend against the swamp. The swamp is the superpower here. The Soviets. Anybody that isn't attacking needs to attack this big pile of units. Okay, well, we got a lot of our reinforcement needs dealt with. Good. Cross the river before we attack. We're one there, good. Oh, you're now. Okay, well, attack across the straits. I know where it's into a swamp, which is not nice, but I'm hoping it's against, well, there's a cavalry division, but that is not that difficult of an opponent, hopefully. Okay, well, keep pushing here, you keep pushing here. Okay, they're still cut off, but these guys have won, so you support that attack. They're holding down all the oil here in Grozny. So until we have this well front lined up, I'm not going to leave that province unguarded. Okay, well now we're starting to take out some submarines. Good. Let's, now that I'm getting, okay, they're up to, let's see. Okay, you guys start doing naval strikes. Now that we've pushed a lot of the Soviet Air Force away here. Now, not that big of it. That big. They're unescorted, so we'll just make sure it's just down here. But these guys are escorted. Okay, these guys will get back to interception. We'll do it passive. Well, I'll let them get a little more. Repaired. Okay, you guys. Okay, that should help with fighting the subs some. Okay, Battle of the Danube mouth down here. We keep dealing with some of their ships. Well, fortunately, okay, well, those guys look like they're going to be okay. But there should be some air power also attacking. Airborne warfare research. All right, okay. I think we're going to. Was that one of? Yeah, okay. 43. Okay, so that's increasing. Yeah, we're going to let that continue. Hey, Beam Slam. Not today. We're continuing the big, invasion of the Soviet Union here. Well, let's just fully clean up that peninsula. Yeah, I've been hearing about, well, seeing some video of the floods. God, they seem terrible. No, we'll just support that attack. That's one thing, I don't want to live in a flood zone. As some of you know, I'm a gun collector, but I'm also a book collector. And I would hate to see my collection of books damaged in a flood. That scares me. Okay, finally we got these pockets reduced down. Let's do that. We'll have this unit, sort that out. We'll get these guys moving, these guys moving. Yeah, that's one of my fortress attacking HQ, so let's get that up there. These guys can get moving now that they've reduced more pockets. What I'm trying to do is we can look, well, we can sort of look at the map here. Move some of these HQ, well, that's like already barely there, but move them a little ways in here because these have some suppression here. So that will, the more suppression you have, obviously, the more supplies will move through a province. Okay, we're going to move these up by rail. Don't want to try to move them any other way. Be sort of ready for somewhat near the areas. These guys, well, let's move them up also. They may end up being attached to some of the specialty attack units. Move you into, well, we'll move you up to here at least to keep the supplies going. Okay, your units are moving that way. Your units are over here, so you go that way. I guess you can fight in the swamps. Okay, actually, I'm gonna stop your movement. You're gonna support that attack. But we're gonna keep the panzers moving forward and the motorized units moving forward. You're gonna have to take up a little bit of territory. You're pushing from there. Good. You can. No, you just keep coming that way. That one is what. Lean up there. Now you can hit this way. You guys hit this way. Yep. All of your units are behind, but they'll catch up someday. Okay, well. Leading the attack. Maybe they'll still do some good across there. Okay, big pile of units. Major defeat. Jaeger division shattered. Oh, down here. Okay, well. Yeah, I hate these goddamn swamps. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad game design or anything like that. I just hate the damn swamps. Okay, we'll finally get well organized up. A lot of units need to be moved up. Oh, there's somebody not attacking? Well, you should be attacking. Oh, another core shattered, damn. I don't know if... Okay, yeah. Yep, lots of Bolsheviks. Too many Bolsheviks. Okay, you're across the river here. Let me look and see if there's any... Let me look this way. If there's any particular cities or towns we want to take. Okay. Well, you're going to push there. These light forces will go there. Let's push against this red army unit that way. And these two will push this way. Yes, I do need to take a little better care of what's going. Hello, Paul. Yeah, well, I don't know if you need to watch all this in order. Well, we started in April, about a month ago in April 42. So this is how far we have gotten in a month. We can see here. Now, of course, we do have the southern front through Iran, but yeah, so that's how far we've gotten in a month. Hey, Rhaegar. Well, more or less, we're pushing on. You know, we have a. I'm going to try to avoid this area here just because I do not want to fight in the Narva swamp area. So I'm going to swing south around and cut off Estonia this way and push towards Leningrad here. I'm going to do that. A little different than historically. Otherwise, we're also pushing, you know, here, getting towards Moscow, and we're doing pretty well heading towards Stalingrad there. We're also pushing up here, getting that over to there. Hey, David. Thank you for the encouragement. We will go, go, go. Come on, guys. Take Sevastopol. You just got one. I thought you would have had that done long ago. Okay, you've won. You're moving on. on, keep going to your pace. No, we keep stopping for various reasons. The clock. Okay, naval strike tactics. Yep, we'll let those two continue. Naval strike tactics, and we're going to keep balancing out this. The Russians invented a big hovercraft. Well, I don't know. During this time, you know, I think leading up to the war, and definitely, or during the war or something, they came up with a sort of a ski tank, shall we say. It was a I don't know. They may have also done hovercraft during this time. I don't know, but they did have a thing that ran on skis that had a big like aircraft propeller behind it, sort of like a, you know, the swamp boats that go used down in like Florida and Louisiana and America, you may have seen. So instead of tracks or whatever, it was meant for the snow, and just an experimental thing to try to move over bad conditions. But yeah, they definitely, like you say, the 60s or something. I know they did a bunch of that stuff then. They may have done earlier. I just don't know of an earlier hover vehicle. Okay. You keep coming up here. You come into the swamp. Okay, all of you guys are... Okay, you're not attacking anyone, so you keep moving. You're not currently attacking or defending. Neither are you. Okay, you come to here. You come to here to go deal with that swamp. You attack north into there. Well, you're going across the river, but... Okay, keep that from becoming a defeat. You're doing it there. Thank you, my friend Arno, for encouraging people. Now, what is here? Okay. Dietrich is trying to push that way. I think Kuhn, which I really don't know anything about, is going to push down this way where there's hopefully just a weak HQ. But von Kleist, with his extra firepower and whatnot, is going to join that attack immediately. Balk is also going to, because they're pushing hopefully successfully into, yeah, some sort of shattered units and one good unit. Hit them here and push down north. We can come out, see for some of our intel. Push there. It is best to try to cut that swamp off and then push into it. Though if we don't push at all, we have, you know, we'll see the units in our rear at some point. So that, which is not a good thing. That one's near shattered. I don't need to lose another HQ to... We're pushing. Well, I hope I'm entertaining you, helping you get to a better day there. Okay, stop that attack. That's just going to... Yeah, major defeat, whatever, not really. Okay, they're coming to fill that hole. They'll be on the defensive. You keep moving this way. I think we need you down here. And I think you should head this way too. We've got some forces here. I will advance with the 6th Panzer, the 6th Army, and do what we can. Yeah, that's, very much my understanding, and it definitely comes from things like that I've, heard in documentaries or read. Is very much... Look, Hitler was an evil guy. I don't even want to make, and I'm always worried about when I say how I talk about him, because people can clip things and take it out of context. He was very much an evil guy. He was a genius at German politics. Now, he thought he knew about international politics. But he was wrong, obviously, because, hey, he starts World War II. He has no intention of starting World War II. He does not want World War II to start. Hitler never wanted World War II to start. What Hitler wanted was a training war with Czechoslovakia. Didn't get that? Then he wanted a training war with Poland. Well, World War II breaks out, but he wanted a training war with Poland. And then, because he was worried about the West, and I think because he fought the West in World War I, wanted a rematch with the West. And so gets that whole, he doesn't want the war with the Soviet Union, so he gets the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, just sort of in case, but he doesn't believe the West is going to attack. He believes the Soviets would be willing to attack. And I know last week we talked a lot about, was Barbarossa just a preemptive attack against a planned Soviet attack? Well, and I hear, people talking about slamming Bush now that a lot of people sort of rehabilitated Bush the Younger, but they're saying, well, remember, he lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. No, he didn't. Bush lied, people died. No, Bush did not lie. Lie is an intentional action of misstating facts, okay? Is saying like, somebody's hiding in the closet, you tell them, there's nobody in the closet. Okay? And, but if you say, oh, hey, I checked the closet last night and there's nobody in it, and somebody has snuck in it since then, you're not lying. You're just wrong, okay? They've traced out what happened with the weapons of mass destruction. I know this is off topic, but the weapons of mass destruction. There was one Iranian dissident who was fairly high up, or not Iranian, sorry, Iraqi dissident that was fairly high up in the Iraqi nuclear program that he defects. And he tells them things, some of it true, but he spins this whole story about railway cars that have secret labs in them that are moving around Iraq to keep it away from inspectors. So whenever you want to go to a particular place to inspect, they'll be gone and whatnot. Well, he's the one that lies to the Bush administration, and the Bush administration wants to believe him. Okay, it matches their belief of what's going on, so they don't question it. They don't ask for proof. They don't ask for anything else. So this guy, whatever Iraqi scientist guy, he lies. People died. Okay, now they did find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Illegal ones. Now, they were old, out-of-date mustard gas canisters left over in some warehouse kind of BS that had never been cleaned up. It was no great program. So, in the end, of course, Saddam Hussein had been targeting with anti-aircraft missiles aircraft that were patrolling the no-fly zone, which Iraq agreed to in their ceasefire agreements over the Kuwait war. Oh, well, that was forced on him. Well, yeah, that's why you do treaties. You force it on to people at the end of a war. But, he was breaking the UN and breaking his own peace treaties. Saddam Hussein. So that was justification enough to go into Iraq. You have a treaty that says, you can't occupy this area, and you occupy this area. That's reason enough to go to war if the other nation wants to, because you've broken your agreement. Like Germany, Hitler occupying the Rhineland. That was reason enough to go to war for France and Britain, and Belgium and whoever else. They could go to war. America could have gone to war right then and there because they reoccupied the Rhineland. So you have to understand everything in the context of the understanding and knowledge of the people at the time, okay? And that may not be correct facts on the ground, getting back to Hitler and the situation. Hitler saw the Soviets as a real threat and a nation that was willing to go to war. Now he thinks, this is where I'm getting Hitler, Hitler thinks France is unwilling to go to war for something other than its own national defense. He's wrong about that. France, in my understanding, was willing to go to war over the Sudetenland. It was Chamberlain who basically goes, no. I mean, he just, in his mind, he realizes that this is going to be a war, and I think he's correct in realizing that Britain is not prepared for war. France, whether it is prepared for war or not, it thinks it is. It thinks it's the superpower of the world. Now, it's prepared for a big defensive war, and obviously things don't work out, but it thinks it's ready to go to war. National mood, and I'll look at the chat, and I'm sure you guys are saying some intelligent things, but the mood of French politics, will the people support a war over Czechoslovakia? That may be another question. But when your primary ally, and an ally that you're counting on, because you do see that Italy is a quite possible ally of Germany, the big sort of other ally, the big great power in the world, Britain, with its, and of course they're not just seeing it as, the UK. They're seeing it as Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the Indian colonies. They're seeing all of this, military power there that they're expecting to, at minimum, use to be able to defeat Germany. Well, no, at minimum, use to help defend France, but expecting at some point to be able to defeat Germany and not just defend themselves. So when Chamberlain calls up Hocha, I think it was Hocha. I think it was Benes. When he calls up, I think Benes, and advises him on the phone to give in the concessions for the Sudetenland, that ends France's willingness to go with it alone. They were like, hey, yeah, no, we got to work something out here. This isn't right. We're not, you don't get to just take it. And when they get their agreement, and then Hitler goes through, and you can see, and I've actually expanded the dance that happens over taking the rest of Czechoslovakia in the TRE that will be coming. No release date yet specified, but will be coming. Hopefully soon, trademark, but no date specified. Running into things that I'm working on. So you'll see more of the dance that was going on. But now, of course, Czechoslovakia, once you've lost all the forts, they become no longer a viable, defensible property, a nation, territory against Germany. They basically are no longer defendable once Austria is part of the German Empire, but that's another story. He sees that basically no real blip. No one in Britain or France went, hey, we're going to close the border with Germany and stop all trade. Not saying we're going to war, but, they didn't even close the border with Germany and say no more German, civilians in trade sanctions like we've had against places like Cuba or something. They didn't even do that. They didn't even go to the level of sanctions that they went to with Italy over the invasion of Ethiopia. All League of Nations were banned from trading with Italy except for, wait for it, oil. The one thing that might have pressured Mussolini into backing off the invasion. But all the rest of that, so I don't know what, really quite honestly, I don't know what happens with the U.S. and trade. I don't think anything happens with the U.S. and trade between Italy, at least. Not that I found, because U.S. is not, even though Wilson proposes and pushes for the League of Nations, and of course intends to joining it, the U.S. Senate, which has to approve those kind of things, does not approve joining the League of Nations. So the U.S. does not join the League of Nations. And of course, Germany is also not a member of the League of Nations. So that pushes, and so Italy is able to trade with Germany. So that pushes Italy into Germany's camp more. But they didn't even put the level of sanctions, which everyone really saw as peaceful sanctions, not as an act of war against Italy, just sort of an isolating them by trade. They didn't even do that to Germany over taking the rest of Czechoslovakia. What would have that done to the German economy if they'd gotten most of the League or all the League of Nations to sort of do that? And most of the other, there's other sort of, obviously Italy wouldn't be, or well, maybe they, I don't, if Italy trades, then you block off Italy too. What would that have, that would have threatened Hitler's economy, may have collapsed the Nazi economy, may have. I'm not saying would have, just maybe, I don't know. And it would have been a shock to the German political system. Not that it would have brought down the Nazis, but it would have been a shock to the German political system. Had they done just the same level of sanctions they did to Italy over Ethiopia, had they done to Germany over, the rest of Czechoslovakia. But they don't even do that. They don't even do that. So Hitler thinks they're not willing to attack him. Now, I'm sure part of the calculus over the rest of Czechoslovakia is knowing that they don't have an Eastern Front ally to deal with Hitler. Okay? And I know, and after this talk, we'll end this. So if you want to see gameplay, we'll make a save right now. Good. They won't have an effective Eastern Front ally because had they gone to war in 1938 over 30, I think it's early 1939. Had they gone, yeah, it's early 1939. Pretty sure it's early 1939. Had they gone to war with Hitler over Czechoslovakia at that point, Czechoslovakia was just going to collapse. It wasn't going to stay around. There wasn't going to be an Eastern Front. And you got to remember, Poland is agitating at the same time, for the breakup of Czechoslovakia. Poland is advocating, Czechs, you got to give up this little bit of territory. Just this one little province. Czechoslovakia. So Poland is actually, egging the Germans on to get this little bit of territory that happens to be part of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire in the German area, but happens to have a majority Polish-speaking peoples. So Poland isn't even going to oh yeah, if you touch one little bit of Czechoslovakia, we're going to be mad. We might even go to war. We'll go to war if, Germany and France do something, kind of thing. No, they don't even do that. So Poland won't even be an ally. Romania wants to be an ally, but it's sort of off on its own and does have an alliance sort of with Poland a bit. But yeah, they don't get this stuff going here. Now, once Czechoslovakia is taken, then they start allying against, to support from Poland, because they realize, over Czechoslovakia, that the agreement that Hitler made means nothing. See, I really think Chamberlain, and I don't know enough about Daladier, but I really think Chamberlain thinks that Hitler's an aggressive personality internationally, but I also think he thinks he's going to more or less honor his agreements with a major power. Because that treaty, or that whole agreement that Chamberlain waves in the air, with you see in the wind, peace for our time, not peace in our time, as it's often mistakenly done, peace for our time to prepare for war. I mean, he doesn't add that second part, but peace for our time. That's not an agreement. Czechoslovakia wasn't in the room. Czechoslovakia never signed that agreement. That was an agreement between Germany, France, Britain, and Italy. Those are the 4 signatures on that. And you'll see some of the events. I show the signature block. Those are the 4 signatures on it. So this is not an agreement with Czechoslovakia. This is an agreement with France and Britain, with Italian sort of guarantees that, because Mussolini sort of comes into play as the mediation. I'm sort of guaranteeing both sides here that, Hitler won't, I'm not going to support Hitler if Hitler doesn't, stand up to his agreement. But if you guys in the West are getting too aggressive, I might support Hitler. So, let's sort of mediate, But so even Mussolini, doesn't say or boo or whatever that take the rest of Czechoslovakia. So Chamberlain thinks Hitler's going to stand up to or agree, to his agreement, which should tell you something about the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. Obviously, they, Barbarossa breaking it, but how anybody should take any of his international agreements. It's basically an agreement with Hitler's agreement, just like, we've decided not to actually go to war over this, whatever this is. We'll see about whatever you do in the future. We know whatever you've said is just BS. So Hitler doesn't understand this. Hitler just thinks they're unwilling to fight. No. They thought they were... Chamberlain thought he got an agreement and thought, actually both sides agreeing upon what was going to happen, and gave Chamberlain time to, and he really does after that start ramping up Britain, and he supports ramping up British military preparedness, spending on building aircraft and ships and updating the army and all that stuff. He really starts that. Doesn't get nearly where he needs to be by 1939 when the war starts, but he starts that process. He's not a head in the sand, it'll all go away kind of idea. No, he's really trying to get prepared for it. So Hitler mistakes the international situation because he's only worried about the Soviet Union over Poland attacking. Hitler doesn't want to have the Soviet Union coming into attack. So this gives you the idea that Hitler believes, because Hitler knows that any agreement he signs is meaningless, so he believes any agreement Stalin signs is meaningless. It's just a temporary, if they say they're going to deliver, 1,000 barrels of oil a day, well, so long as they're delivering 1,000 barrels of oil a day, okay, they're keeping that up, but at any moment they may stop. He doesn't trust any agreement that he has with Stalin. Okay. And he fears them as a threat of invasion. He doesn't fear the threat from the West when invading Poland. But he wants round 2 with Britain and France because he does believe that they are a threat. And I think he wants to prove to himself, to the German people, to the world at large, the German people can win against these other people. They aren't a beaten nation anymore. It's sort of like the idea of, and it's sort of true, that if you have, kids, that you have a bully who picks on somebody, if you get a little bit of, Karate Kid way back in the day, if you guys have ever seen the movie, face your fears and go tackle the bully kind of thing. Get some training, It's sort of that sort of thing with internationally. So Hitler wants a war, not World War II, but he wants a war against Britain and France. He doesn't want America involved in it, but he doesn't think America will be involved in it. He doesn't think the Soviets will be involved because, at least for now, he has the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and he's going to go in and deal with them at some point. But obviously, he's mistaken in that they jump in over Poland. But he doesn't want World War II. He wants to go with that. Now, he might have even, and I don't know, this is Gamer completely speculating. I think he might have thought he could have convinced Britain to leave just, it's going to be a war, a Franco-German war of 1943 or 42 or whatever. He might have been able to isolate, get Britain from, do some agreements with them. But I don't know if that's just Gamer speculating here. I don't have any good sources on any of that. I can't point to anything. So don't come at me with, you may say I'm wrong and point me why, but just my speculation. And then he once that war is over, then he wants to take on the Soviet Union. So he wants a succession of wars, not one big war. Now, unfortunately for him, he gets one big war. And that's where they're all wrong. Let me see what sort of being set up here in the chat. Okay, they talked about Stalin as a map general. Yeah, Stalin wasn't any better of a general than Hitler. That's for sure. Let's see the YouTube series. Off topic. Off topic with Gamer. Yeah, that would be a cool one. But that is already what the YouTube series is. All of mine are off topic with Gamer. People ran away from their country are typically saying things they think their new country. Yes, absolutely, Ragar. That's definitely it's what they want to hear. So yeah, because I know Colin Powell. I've never met Colin Powell personally, but I had a relative who served with Colin Powell closely. My relative was the battalion commander. Colin Powell was the executive officer of the battalion. So that closely during the Vietnam War. So, and I've heard about Colin Powell and this is when I was talking to my relative, when he first became commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff before he ever was, Secretary of State or anything. So I've heard of Colin Powell. I don't think he would have lied in front of that UN thing, knowingly give false information. He might have shut up and soldiered if he thought it was. He would not have said those things. Whether he would have resigned or not, I don't know. But he would have just not said anything. He would not have presented knowing lies like that. Because he had the whole little, easel thing with the diagram of what the railway cars. He wouldn't have done any of that if he was lying. He would not have done any. He would not, if he thought it was untrue. He thought it was true. He did not intentionally lie. Now, he gave bad information. I'm not going to argue that at all. He gave bad information, but he did not lie. Yeah, so, yeah, hello, Toyjet. Chamberlain said we saved Western way of life when he threw Czechoslovakia to the wolves. Yeah, in a way, that's quite true. Let's see. Chamberlain gives in repeatedly, led Germany to believe. Yeah, absolutely gave them, but it was Chamberlain. I really think Chamberlain thought he could, or thought there was going to be general peace in Europe, but that whole, Munich conference thing really woke Chamberlain up, but it was, sort of too late kind of thing. He woke up too late. If Germany didn't go Nazis, they would have gone communist in the aftermath of World War I. Led to Spain going communist too. I don't think it's a binary choice for Germany. Nazis or communists. I don't think it's a binary choice. there was massive outrage at what the communists did during the revolts, including slaughtering people during the revolts the early days in Berlin and down in Munich. I don't see it that way, but I may be wrong. Obviously, we don't know, because I'm now the Nazis get, of course, very, very popular in Germany. But if they hadn't gotten popular, I think it would have been more of a case of the center and right blocking out the communists together. And it might have looked much more like the Spanish Civil War kind of thing. That there would have been a military Freikorps rising up against not a majority communist, because there's a bunch of governments in Germany, especially at that time, more so than today. A bunch of regional governments and local governments, where the communists could have, taken, won elections, maybe in a place like Berlin. Maybe actually their party win, but generally they might have eventually got to the point of being the biggest party, but I don't think the communists would have ever been the majority party, meaning they might have gotten something like, I don't know, because I don't think they were anywhere near it, like 30% or so of the vote, but everybody else is 20%, 3 or so of the other major parties together would have done it, because the socialists had been around under the Kaiser, and the socialists, if all their advocate, the first social security or social welfare for aged program comes under Bismarck, for Germany. So if all the socialists are pushing for in Germany is reform, reform out a lot of the German Empire, as it were, I think they would be satisfied in allowing the conservatives to run the show, so long as they're getting the reforms that they feel they need. I know that the conservative socialist reforms, but getting sort of what they need. The idea of which the Nazis do is there's a lot of slums in Germany. Cleaning out the slums. The Nazis clean them out. There's no more slums, unless, of course, you're the wrong type of person later on. But the Nazis clear out the slums. So you could get the sort of kind of coalition there, I think, to block out the communists. I don't take that as a binary choice between either Nazis or communists. Yeah, absolutely, Ragnar. I know where I'm going back over the chat, but the south of Czechoslovakia with Austria has become untenable. But when the generals would play it right, Germany would lose a major part of the German Air Force and would get her pushed into France, yes. Romania, very strong. Well, somewhat. Communists without the great T and reparation, German economy would have survived. And yeah, it's definitely what definitely there's communist revolts, what was it, 1919, 1920 in Germany. But after that, the communists are in nowhere strong enough, and it's only the two Great Depressions that sort of show up, great hyperinflation periods, that both times really shoot up the Nazis, but they also shoot up the communists. Without that situation, and it's the reparations after World War I that are causing the situation to be as bad as it was. So it's, Munich, Soviet Republic, yes, as you're going. Communists generally don't get voted in anywhere, though. They just seize power. Well, that's quite true. They normally get impatient because they're revolutionaries. They think they have enough strength, so they seize power. But we see, partially with Adolf Hitler himself, is the army after World War I is watching various political movements and organizations, and Hitler is sent in as he's sort of a hero corporal that they're trying to find a job for, that he's no longer, he had been wounded but now fit. But what do we do with this guy? Oh, well, let's send him to go, because he seems like a reliable little chap. I'm sort of using the English version of it, of how they would say it. I don't know how the Germans would say it. These guys are flying somewhere. Reliable little chap. Let's have him go and check out some of these different, political movements, and of course he ends up joining them. Similarly, although he hated the Prussian elites that run the German military, but very much believed in the German state and was left, but who was a liaison between the army and the various right-wing militia groups, Freikorps, whatever you want to call them, in the 20s and into the early-ish 30s, but, well, mostly the 20s, is Ernst Röhm. Röhm was the guy who sort of, when it was tasked to go around to the different Freikorps movements. A lot of them are masquerading as veterans organizations of World War I, and checking out who their leadership is, getting understanding of their size. Many of these groups are not overly political in the sense that they're not tied necessarily to a particular party, or if they generally sort of were, they were sort of more private local militias of veterans, because of the earlier communist uprisings and that are existing around there, where the SA, the stormtroopers, they were very much a political party's militia, where a lot of the other Freikorps weren't that closely tied to because there's I'm sort of projecting into them. These leaders. Well, if this political leader screws us, well, screw him. We're not his supporters. We're supporters of good Germany. And if this particular, local mayor, local whatever that we may temporarily support, if he's doing the right policies and making the right judgments, we're supporting him. But if he starts screwing up, well, we'll withdraw our support. Where the SA wasn't that way, really, with the Nazis. They were embedded in the Nazis or whatever. So, but was Ernst Röhm going around and identifying these groups and making sure that those groups had temporary, notice I'm saying the word temporary access to arms for training, but then the arms, like let's go out and shoot today and then take the arms back to the, armory and store up secret armories away from, in the 1920s, from post-war inspectors, so that they weren't counted on the books as arms that the German army or the German nation had, and to be ready that if there is a national emergency, to hand out the machine guns, to hand out the rifles, and maybe even a few artillery pieces to some of these Freikorps, to hand them out to defend Germany, whether from an internal or external threat. He was one of the main guys down in, because it was sort of Bavaria's where the Nazis were associated with. And he was more of, I think, a Bavarian. But Ernst Röhm hates the Prussian officer class as it sort of dominates the German army. And that's more, not so much that he hates the elites. It's more that he's not one of them and he's of the wrong ethnic or social group, meaning not Prussian, to be in that group. So that's why he wants to have the SA replace the army, because he wants to be in charge and not them. I think it's as much personal as anything else. So yeah, that's my assessment there of what's going on with Hitler, the Nazis, and all that. Yeah, and I know this goes back to Hitler, the map general. So Hitler understands German politics very well, not international politics nearly as well. And he has a rudimentary understanding, a decent understanding of strategy, but he doesn't trust the instrument that he's commanding. Meaning when the generals, and you brought up the Sixth Army will attack with its 6 panzers that it has left and does what it can. He doesn't trust the generals when they tell him he needs to retreat, when they give him information that is contrary to what he wants to believe is true. He thinks they're just being defeatist. He doesn't trust their reports. He doesn't do that. So it's it's, Guderian, and one of the reasons the fallout with Guderian is, I hope I have all this right, is Guderian, after the failure of taking Moscow, he wants to fall back to more or less, and I don't know, maybe whether from Prussia to Odessa or something like Riga to Odessa, to fall back and give up the Ukraine, to fall back all the way back here and get a line that they can easily hold while reorganizing up, panzerizing, if you will, the German army for a year or so, and then make major thrusts into the Soviet Union again. He doesn't trust that that's good advice. He thinks that's just the generals being unreliable and defeatist. And not defeatist as in the way, oh shit, we've been defeated, but defeatist is, oh hey, we can't win this. Let's do this thing to then eventually get rid of the Nazis as political leaders. He just doesn't trust the instrument that he's commanding to give him reliable information, reliable assessments. And so when you get a general who says, yes, I can do this. Yes, we should do this. Yes, we should attack. Yes, 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 yes. He likes that general. He trusts that general. That general, I know this to be the case of how Ribbentrop, the Nazi Party, and then later German foreign minister, he starts out just as the Nazi Party foreign minister, and then the sort of special ambassador to Britain, and eventually replaced von Roth as foreign minister. Ribbentrop learned that if Hitler states a position like, I don't know, they should be locked up, whoever they is, they should lock them up. Ribbentrop knows, no, mein Führer, they should be shot. He always wants to, and learns to always take whatever position Hitler has and move it to a little bit more extreme. And Hitler always, yeah, this guy's on the ball. He knows that we should really be harsh on this, or we should really go after this, or that we should really. And so he gets favor of Hitler. He's a lousy diplomat. He is not. And posts where Ribbentrop has a win diplomacy that he's running diplomatically. Because he's not running diplomatically and the win over the Czechoslovakian crisis. That's all Hitler. No, it's von Roth is the good diplomat, smoothing ruffled relations with nations, making nations agree to whatever is best you can get them to agree. Ribbentrop isn't that. Ribbentrop is not a good diplomat. Ribbentrop is just a person who's learned how to manipulate Hitler to win the power wars within the Nazi hierarchy, and then he becomes more and more out of the loop, or more and more irrelevant. That's the proper term. More and more irrelevant as diplomacy becomes less and less needed as we're just simply at war. So that's why he doesn't end at the top of the hierarchy, because he's no longer useful, but he definitely knows how to climb the power ranks. Well, this will be the end of this episode. We will continue next time with more Hearts of Iron.